you talking to, Grady? Who you think you talking to? Not me. Y'all know that, Ludacris. Y'all don't know that. Listen, here it goes. Ever since the first reports about a planned upstart international basketball league, codenamed Project B, questions have swirled about where its money is coming from. Last February, the Financial Times reported.
Okay, so that's Grady Burnett, co-founder of Project B. And what you're about to see might be one of the biggest exposés in women's basketball history. Because here's what no one's daring to say. This isn't just about contracts or cash. This is about athletes who once stood for women's empowerment and equality, suddenly going silent the moment Saudi money entered the game. In the last 72 hours, shocking details have surfaced. Lies, deals, and silence that could change the future of women's sports forever. And trust me, by the end, you'll see why everyone's panicking.
Public funding, basically, is a league event partner. This dude you see in the thumbnail, Grady Burnett, has been lying about the funding.
Did you catch that? It didn't include any money from Saudi Arabia. Keep those words in mind because what you're about to hear will completely change that impression. Here's the missing context everyone seems to overlook. Project B just signed Nneka Wemik, the WNBA president and former MVP, to lead this new mysterious league. The timing is absolutely crazy, right in the middle of WNBA-CBA negotiations, where players are fighting for better pay, improved conditions, and stronger contracts. The person who's been leading those negotiations just jumped ship to this rival league, which is backed by undisclosed investors. Now let's focus on the money. Project B is promising minimum salaries of $2 million, a stark contrast to the WNBA's max of around $250,000. They plan to fly 66 players worldwide, Asia, Europe, Latin America, covering all expenses and building a global brand from scratch. Do you know what that costs? Billions. So when reporters asked where all this money is coming from, that's when things got really interesting.
He said, this is directly from Grady Burnett. This dude is lying. We're building a global basketball league, so we want a global diversified cap table around us, Burnett told Front Office Sports. That doesn't include any dollars from Saudi Arabia. Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here.
What you're being told is that there's no financial benefit flowing back to them, but that's a carefully crafted lie. Let's clarify what Grady Burnett wants you to believe. There's a Saudi connection, but it's just as an event partner. They claim they're paying Saudi Arabia's telecom company to help organize events. Money going out, not in. However, the truth is much deeper. Chella, the company involved, is a fully owned subsidiary of Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, PIF, which manages over $700 billion. PEF has been actively investing in global sports, acquiring golf courses, funding soccer clubs, Formula One teams, esports leagues, and more, using sports as a vehicle for sports washing. The real objective isn't just event management. It's strategic influence. Partnering with a Saudi subsidiary means access to their infrastructure, connections, venues, media networks, and sponsorship deals. Assets that would cost hundreds of millions to develop independently. And the money trail? It's even more opaque, revealing a web of influence designed to expand Saudi Arabia's global reach and control, far beyond what's visible on the surface.
There is a connection. Sella, a subsidiary of the Saudi Public Investment Fund, is an event partner of the league. I'm going to say that again. Sella, a subsidiary of the Saudi Public Investment Fund, is an event partner of the league. And here he says, we have partnerships with a lot of companies around the world. Sella is one event partner that we pay money to. We do not have any dollars coming from this.
Listen closely to how he dodges that question. He claims they have partnerships with many companies worldwide. But that's just diplomatic language. PR speak for "don't look too closely at our financial dealings." When journalists started investigating, they uncovered some eye-opening facts. In February 2024, the Financial Times, one of the most reputable financial publications, reported that Project B was partially funded by Saudi Arabia's sovereign wealth fund. This wasn't just rumors or speculation. It was confirmed with sources. After that, Project B went completely silent for months. No confirmation, no denial, just quiet behind the scenes as they quietly built their league structure. During this period, something even more revealing happened. They began recruiting high-profile athlete investors. Candace Parker signed on, Elena Deladon joined the board, Dana Bonner received equity, and big names like Steve Young and Maverick Carter became involved. Their strategy was clever. By having American athletes with ownership stakes, they could promote it as player-owned and athlete-driven, providing cover for deeper financial ties. But then Maverick Carter, LeBron James's business partner, suddenly backed out, without explanation or announcement. What makes someone walk away from a potential billion-dollar opportunity? It's likely because they realized the source of the funding could turn into a PR nightmare. This is where the hypocrisy of the entire situation becomes impossible to ignore.
NBA sources question what it would mean for players to align in any way with Saudi Arabia, which has been long criticized for its human rights record. One league source shared the opinion that it could limit the social impact players can have. The WNBA has since its existence been considered an activist league. Throughout the course of its nearly 3-decade-long history, players, executives, and coaches have used their platforms to advocate for social justice issues ranging from marriage equality to LGBTQ rights to police brutality, racial equality, and voting rights.
Did you hear that list? Marriage equality, LGBTQ rights, police brutality, racial justice, voting rights. These are issues the WNBA has built its entire brand around. These players have been some of the most outspoken athletes in American sports when it comes to social justice. In 2020, the entire WNBA season was dedicated to Breonna Taylor. Players wore her name on their jerseys, organized protests, and actively pushed for change. They helped oust Kelly Loeffler, a team owner who opposed Black Lives Matter. And the Atlanta Dream was sold because the players refused to play for an owner who didn't support their activism. This activism is central to the league's identity. It's what sets the WNBA apart from other sports organizations. These players aren't just athletes. They're activists who use their platform to speak truth to power. So how can these same players justify accepting money linked to Saudi Arabia? Because here's the reality of Saudi Arabia's human rights record. Women only gained the right to drive in 2018, just 6 years ago. Women still require male guardian approval for major life decisions. LGBTQ relationships are criminalized, with punishments including prison sentences and even the death penalty. Journalists critical of the government are murdered and dismembered. Political dissidents vanish into prisons. This isn't ancient history. It's happening right now as we speak. How do these athletes reconcile that?
That is exactly what they are asking. It's at the same reason the players united in an effort to help elect Raphael Warnock to the U.S. Senate as a response to his opponent, Kelly Loeffler, then a co-owner of the Dream, calling for the WNBA to drop its support of Black Lives Matter movement. Less than a year later, the Dream were sold to a new ownership group. Project B declined to share how much capital the league has raised.
Did you hear that list? Marriage equality, LGBTQ rights, police brutality, racial justice, voting rights. These are issues the WNBA has built its entire brand around. These players have been some of the most outspoken athletes in American sports when it comes to social justice. In 2020, the entire WNBA season was dedicated to Breonna Taylor. Players wore her name on their jerseys, organized protests, and actively pushed for change. They helped oust Kelly Loeffler, a team owner who opposed Black Lives Matter. And the Atlanta Dream was sold because the players refused to play for an owner who didn't support their activism. This activism is central to the league's identity. It's what sets the WNBA apart from other sports organizations. these players aren't just athletes. They're activists who use their platform to speak truth to power. So how can these same players justify accepting money linked to Saudi Arabia? Because here's the reality of Saudi Arabia's human rights record. Women only gained the right to drive in 2018, just 6 years ago. Women still require male guardian approval for major life decisions. LGBTQ relationships are criminalized, with punishments including prison sentences and even the death penalty. Journalists critical of the government are murdered and dismembered. Political dissidents vanish into prisons. This isn't ancient history. It's happening right now as we speak. How do these athletes reconcile that?
No longer involved. You remember, Maverick Carter and LeBron James was a part of it. Now, did they back away from it because there's Saudi money behind it? I don't know. But, some people are going to speculate. This week, the WNBPA president and former WNBA MVP, Nneka Ogwumike, was the first player to sign with Project B. The news came as a surprise to many in and around.
Conflict of interest. He mentions it 5 times in just 30 seconds, and he's completely right. But the conflict runs much deeper than just competing with the WNBA. Consider what's really happening here. The president of the WNBA Players Association, who is actively negotiating on behalf of all WNBA players, is suddenly jumping to a rival league in the middle of those negotiations. That's not just a conflict. It's potential leverage. Now, the WNBA owners know that if they don't meet player demands, there's a Saudi-backed alternative ready to swoop in and poach their top stars. Meanwhile, players realize that if they push too hard, the league might just let them walk away to Project B. This creates a nuclear option that shifts the entire power balance. What's more, Project B isn't launching immediately. It's strategically planned to give them 2 full years to recruit the league's biggest stars, offering them enormous sums of money.
Of Sella did not respond to a request for comment. This dude, Grady, come on, bruh. We not dumb. Following Burnett's announcement, multiple WNBA sources questioned what it would mean for players to align in any way with Saudi Arabia.
Just own it. That's what makes this whole situation so frustrating. If Grady Burnett had come out and said, "Yes, we have Saudi backing, and here's why we think that's okay," at least that would be honest. Players and fans could then make informed decisions about supporting the league. Instead, we're getting a carefully crafted dance where technically nothing he says is an outright lie, but the overall picture he presents is wildly misleading. We don't have any direct dollars from Saudi Arabia, okay? But you're paying a Saudi company for services that would normally cost hundreds of millions. Where does that money come from? Chella is just an event partner, he says. But Chella is owned by the Public Investment Fund, PIF, meaning every dollar paid to them ultimately flows back to the Saudi government. They're a global company based in London, yet their funding still traces to the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund. Do you see how this works? It's technically true on a surface level, but it's fundamentally dishonest about the bigger picture, and that's why it matters. Players are making decisions that could define their careers based on incomplete information. If Nneka Ogum knew the full extent of Saudi involvement, would she still have taken equity? Would Candace Parker have understood the PR nightmare coming? Some might say yes. The money's too good to pass up. But they deserve to make that choice with full transparency.
Let's take a look, man. Grady Burnett is the co-founder of Project B. Now, we know Nneka Ogwumike went and signed a deal over there in the midst of a WNBA CBA negotiation, which is a complete conflict of interest. You could slice it, dice it any way you want. Conflict of interest. Brianna Stewart, conflict of interest. Nafisa Collier, conflict of interest. I'm calling Kelsey Plum, conflict of interest. I'm calling it out.
The craziest part of this whole saga is that Project B hasn't even played a single game yet. 0 proven concept, no track record, and already embroiled in the biggest controversy in women's basketball history. Just imagine what will happen when they actually launch. What many aren't talking about is the massive long-term impact this could have. If Project B succeeds, a global women's basketball league backed by Saudi money, it would fundamentally reshape the landscape of women's sports. Suddenly, every women's league across all sports will be forced to ask, should we accept Saudi funding? Should we partner with countries with questionable human rights records if it means better pay and opportunities for athletes? It's the same dilemma that tore apart men's golf when Live Golf entered the scene. Players faced a choice: loyalty to the PGA Tour or huge wealth from Saudi Arabia. Friendships ended, legacies were affected, and the sport continues to feel those consequences. Now, women's basketball faces that same challenge, but with an added layer. Women's sports have long prided themselves on ethics and values. The WNBA is more than a league, it's a movement. So, what happens when that movement gets bought out?
Out of here. Get the out of here. Come on, man. Don't do that. Just own it. Yeah, I got some Saudi bread behind me. Yeah, say what you want. Yeah. Just own it, though. Just own it. While Burnett denies Project B is funded in any way by Saudi Arabia. In any way. Remember that.
That raw reaction perfectly captures how many basketball fans feel right now. Disbelief, betrayal, and the sense that they're being lied to. What makes the deception so infuriating is that Grady Burnett seems to think we're stupid. He believes if he uses corporate jargon and makes fine technical distinctions, no one will see through it. But we're not naive. We can connect the dots. When a league promises billions in funding without a clear revenue plan, that's sovereign wealth money. Partnering with a Saudi subsidiary for event management creates a financial relationship that benefits both sides. Recruiting American athlete investors as cover is reputation laundering. When the co-founder offers carefully worded non-denial denials, it's clear they know the full truth would be damaging. This is textbook sports washing. What's more cynical is that it's happening in women's basketball, a league that champions activism and social justice. Saudi Arabia isn't investing in women's sports out of kindness. They're trying to buy legitimacy, distract from human rights abuses, and rebrand themselves as progressive. And sadly, it might work.
Obvious. I think it's very obvious, but we will keep up to date with this. This is crazy. This changes everything. This dude is lying about being backed by the Saudis. This is nuts.
This changed everything. And he's right, but not in the way he thinks. It's not just about Project B's reputation. It's about transforming the entire landscape of women's basketball. Now, every decision is viewed through this new lens. When Caitlin Clark chose to stay in the WNBA instead of jumping to Project B, was it about loyalty or avoiding Saudi ties? When other stars turn down offers from Project B, is it about morals or money? Conversely, when players sign with Project B, what does that say about their values? Are we still allowed to question their activism? If you've spent years fighting for LGBTQ rights and then accept money linked to a country that criminalizes LGBTQ individuals, what does that make you? These are uncomfortable questions, but they're necessary. Here's what I believe is really happening, and it should concern everyone. Saudi Arabia has studied what happened with Ali Wolf and learned the right lessons. They saw that with enough money, people stop asking questions. Outrage fades. It becomes normalized. They're betting that the same will happen with women's basketball, that players will prioritize financial security over activism, and that fans will continue watching because the basketball is good. They're betting that in 2 years, no one will care about where the funding comes from. And honestly, they might be right. Because the brutal truth about sports washing is that it works. We've seen it time and again. Qatar hosted the World Cup despite horrific labor abuses. China held the Olympics amid genocide accusations. The UAE hosts massive boxing events despite human rights concerns. The outrage might last a few weeks or months, but eventually everyone moves on.